Hey everybody, and welcome to today's workshop where we'll be talking about the Tuskegee Airmen, the African American pilots of World War II. We've got a book here at the library, which is a nice photographic chronicle of the Tuskegee Airmen, and you should come by and check this out. This gives a pretty good history of the unit and its formation. And it talks about the different aircraft that they flew. It's a really nice overview of the group. Let me give you an example here. Some of the planes that they flew here that are in the book. Shows the P-40s here, and there's some photographs of the B-25s and the P-51 Mustangs, etc., that they flew during their fighting period in World War II. Now, originally they were giving some of the older, outdated planes, but eventually they worked their way up to get the finest planes available. I have another book here, which is a beauty, bit of a coffee table book, and it's big and heavy like a coffee table. But this is Aircraft of World War II. This is a fantastic book if you stop by the library and check this out. This has got a really good look at everything that flew during the war. And in the section here on the P-51, you can see one of the red tails here of the Tuskegee Airmen. This was the P-51C used by pilot Lee Archer, who was the top scoring ace of the Red Tails. And some of his exploits you can see on the History Channel, the Military Channel had a show called Dogfights. That tends to be repeated quite frequently on that network. Maybe that's something you can look up, but the Dogfight show had a good episode on the Tuskegee Airmen. So anyway, so there again is Archer's airplane. And Airfix had recently released, not Archer's plane, but this is Spurgeon Ellington's from the 100th Fighter Squadron in Ramitelli, Italy. This P-51D, the later model, this is considered like the Cadillac of the skies, I think they call it. This is probably one of the best fighter planes of the war. So this has the red tail associated with this squadron. And this is, it's kind of marketed as a starter kit because it comes with the paintbrush, paint bottles, and a tube of glue. I'm going to take a quick peek inside here. I started to do some work on this. Get everything out of here. So here's the paintbrush that comes in. And you can see here, a little bag with little pots of paint and a tube of glue. So you can get someone started pretty quickly here with this kit. But on a closer inspection of this kit, which looks to be a very nice model, but for a starter kit, there are some small parts here. So I don't know if this is necessarily going to be a kid-friendly model. I would think not really, because of the sizes and shapes of these pieces. I think this might be a challenge. So we'll have to see how that works out. So as you can see down here, there's a lot of tiny parts. But the detail on these kits is fantastic, and they generally go together well. I've not built this one yet, but as you can see, I started to work on it by doing some of the interior painting. And it does give you the paints in the set, which I opted not to use at the moment. They give you a very basic range of colors, like the silver, the red, like an olive green color and a black, which will do for most people. But if you want to get like really technical with this, you may need to go a little further. For example, and this might be hard to see on 1/72nd scale. I'll try, but here's the pilot, okay? And I based that on this book here, Allied Soldiers of World War II, this is one of the historical collections books. And these are really great photo studies of uniforms. We've talked about these in previous episodes. But here is a typical fighter pilot from the World War II era for the Americans. And you can see the different colors and so forth involved with that uniform. So I tried my best to mimic that in 72nd scale, which is kind of a challenge because it's really small. I don't know how much of that we're really going to see when he's sitting in the airplane, but we'll find out, right? And another kit that's out there that depicts a Tuskegee Airmen plane is this one here, the P-47 Thunderbolt kit. This is an old tester's kit. So this dates from about 1991, and maybe this is still available on eBay. I'll give you a quick peek at this, and I'm sure there's others out there. If you go looking, you probably find others by Hasegawa, which is a fantastic model company. They make really exquisite model kits. So this tester's kit, from first look, like I said, it's a bit old. And the parts, the detail is not outstanding, let's put it that way. It's very basic. I mean, there's a lot of cleanup you're probably going to need to do on this because you can see there's a lot of flash. Again, I did some interior painting on this already to get these ready for construction. But they're pretty large pieces. You know, this has an option of two styles of cockpit types. You know, so it's pretty large pieces. I'm going to guess that this one, and of course, a couple of different options for the canopies. So this looks like this is going to be a simple build. This one might be more kid-friendly. I think, you know, it's got a more basic layout. And again, the figure's not the best detailed, but I don't know if you can see this. I'm trying to get that. Yeah, right, my finger's in the way. So I tried to paint this figure similarly. Though the detail on this figure is not great, so I thought the paint might help. I'll take you through the instruction sheet on both of these so you have an idea. So the old tester's kits tended to have very descriptive instructions, which is helpful in one sense because they explain in writing every single step you need to take, what to paint where. So it's pretty well spelled out what's required. They have a lot of, you know, they give you the history, they give you a lot of helpful tips with this, but it's a lot of reading, which isn't completely necessary for those people that can, you know, are used to building models. You kind of get the idea anyway, just by looking at the diagrams. But there's not a whole lot to this kit, so I'm thinking this probably won't be that bad. It's just you have a choice of two styles of cockpit and window designs, because one had a bubble top, the later one, and the earlier one, which is the one that's going to be for the Tuskegee Airmen, it's called a Razorback. It had a, let me see, I'll show you in here. Yeah. So the canopy is this way and not a bubble top. So this has the painting scheme of the silver and with the red tail of the Tuskegee Airmen. And where's the markings? And the decal sheet, which is hopefully, it looks like it's still good, considering this has been sitting around for quite a while. But that looks promising, that it's still going to work. And I'm fairly confident with, yeah, they look pretty good to me. But I'm fairly confident we could find, you know, decals for this if we had to. And the markings are only not that complicated, other than I guess the yellow stripes would be. But so that's what we're looking at there. The Airfix kit, I'll show you the back here. This is your painting guide. So again, natural metal finish. It's got an olive anti-glare panel that they would put on them. Toward the end of the war, the United States, to speed production and make things quicker, more efficient, they got to a point where they stopped camouflaging their airplanes. They were painting everything in an olive drab upper surfaces with like a neutral gray underside. And they got to a point where, I guess for the bombers, they realized it was somewhat pointless, I guess for two reasons. One was that when the bomber formations were flying, you would get contrails, from the vapor in the sky. Like now, if you look in the sky, you can see the streaks in the sky from the jet. I guess the propeller planes did the same thing. In formation, you'd see these streaks anyway. So it wasn't like they were camouflaged really in the air. Plus, there was this belief which there's some statistics behind this, that adding the paint actually added weight to the planes and slowed them down. So polished metal seemed to be more sensible to them at the time for those types of reasons. Plus, it just speeded production, getting them out to the front lines a lot quicker. And then they would just decorate them for specific squadron markings, thus the red tails here. So the decal sheet for this one, and there's a lot. So Airfix gives you the option, if you're really ambitious, because you can see there's all of these, what they refer to as stencils. And these basically are, well, on an airplane, there's little things that would mark where the oil goes, where you can step, where you're not supposed to step, basically for the ground crews and mechanics when they're working on a plane. And there's lots of these little tiny wording. There's markings on the propellers. There's, you have the instrument panel here for the cockpit. So there's a lot of different things on this decal sheet. And then how you could do the yellow stripes. And then this front red stripe. And this has the blue and white stars and bars, which are more common from, I guess, like the summer '43 onward. This marking was used for the United States until 1947 when they switched it and added a red line into the bar. So let's have a look at the instruction sheet. And typical of Airfix, you have an instruction sheet that's in many different languages. And, okay, somewhat open now. And very clear and simple instructions, which is nice. So that makes me a little more optimistic about building this kit, and that the instructions are very clear. Which helps. There are some options like the position of where you want the radiator to go, and there's flaps if you want them down or in flight mode. There's different ways of doing that. The landing gear can be up and down. Both airplanes give you that option. What I think is strange, hold on one moment. My apologies, you always get a phone call right in the middle of something important. Never fails. But one thing that's weird about this is that it talks about the pilot figure, and it suggests putting him in last, which I think that would be difficult to do. And I know when we've done this in the model building workshop with some of these kits to try to pop the pilot in later, it hasn't always worked well. I would suggest putting him in at the beginning when you're putting the cockpit together. Might save a lot of headaches. And then here's your diagram at the end for where all of those little stencils, if you're so inclined to use them, where they would all go on the aircraft. And you can also have an option for whether you want the cockpit window open or closed. So that's a quick peek of some models that you can build of the Tuskegee Airmen's aircraft. Like I said, we got a P-47 and a P-51 here. Those are the main fighters that they were using toward the end of the war. And I'm sure there's others out there. If you just go have a look and see what you find. There's some probably great stuff out there. So, have some fun, keep building, and we'll talk to you soon on upcoming episodes, okay? Bye.